Oh my gosh, Granny, when are you coming back? You have to use the choker? Not for my grandma. Grandma, I need a new car, boyfriend. And you can also buy me a house.
I think it's sad that South Africa found that video funny. I don't find it funny because, number one, these children are practicing idolatry. This shows that an average child in South Africa has been trained to practice idolatry by going to the grave and talk to dead people. They go there, they consult, they tell, they update their grandmother, Granny, I want this, I want that. Or they already know that you need to take snuff and then pour it while you're talking. You guys have trained up your children in a way that does not please God. Parents have produced a godless society because you have taught your children to embrace dead people more than they should embrace God, and that's demonic. An average person in Africa, if not South Africa, has been trained that whenever your relative who has died, or your grandmother, your mother, whosoever that person is, whenever they did, when you want things or you want your path to have light, you must go there, you must plead with them and beg them, oh, please open this for me. I want a job, I want to get married, I want a house, please open these doors for me. And then you wonder, why is it that your life just becomes stuck? Because you go to the graveside and you start speaking, and words are objects in the spirit, meaning that any word that you speak, any spiritual entity can have access to that word. The graveside is not a place to play. Most of you go to the graveside, you go play there, and then you wonder why you are being oppressed, why you're suffering with certain demons, because you go into their territory. This is where you find demonic spirits. This is where witches play, in the gravesite. And you go there willingly to go talk to your relatives, but you actually don't realize that you are endangering your life. This practice of idolatry has to stop. It is actually even shocking that children even know how to do it, because you have failed to raise children in a godly manner. You have failed to raise children in a way that pleases God. They don't even know the way to the Lord. They don't even know how to pray in tongues. They don't know how to please the Lord. All they know is to speak to dead people. That shows that parents of this generation have failed to raise a society that has God. We have children that are godless, and that is pretty sad. Your dead mother, grandmother, whatever, whoever that has died, if they failed to have a prosperous life, what makes you think that they have the power to make you prosperous? Change your ways.
Okay, what's the best way to answer? Let's not forget that Christians, or Catholics specifically, they have rituals that entails the transformation of bread and also the transformation of wine into blood and into flesh. Now, this basically translates to spiritual cannibalism. Now, let's even talk about the numerous saints that the Catholic Church have. They call the names of these saints, they venerate these saints, and none of the saints are actually alive. Because for you to even be a saint, you have to be dead. Or the numerous shrines that the Christianity has basically raised as places of worship, and according to them, these places have tendencies of miracles that basically qualifies such an arena to even be a shrine at the first place. Based on the question that she asked, have we been socialized into demon worship? Because I just want to understand, have we been demonized into have we been socialized into demon worship? Now, we ascribing ancestral worship or ancestral veneration as something that is demonic is first of all a colonial mindset. It's a colonial thinking. It's a white supremacist ideology. An ideology that has been instilled into the minds and hearts of Africans. That's what is happening here. Now, if you look at the religion that the Westerners brought to us in Africa, one thing is constant. If they say they are venerating their Virgin Marys or their saints, these people are no longer alive. Now, within the indigenous belief system, if we are doing the same thing We are recognizing those people that set foundations, that we came into this incarnation and we met them. But for us to basically look at our own system and say, no, this is some kind of a demonic institution, it is because of colonialism. It is an ideology of everything that is black is evil and any other thing that is white is holy. That it is the rationale. There is no two ways about it. The only way for her to say that our system is a demon worship is because she still dwells and ascribe to this indoctrination, this colonial indoctrination, that Africans are dealing with or dealt with some kind of demonic force. Now, in our indigenous belief system, our ancestors had words for good and for evil. Now, whenever a people, a culture, whenever they have a word for something, that means they understood what that thing is. And it's prevalent in their society. So, for instance, if our ancestors never had any word or never understood the concept of evil, don't do unto others what you don't want them to do unto you. Therefore, that's when I will look at it and I'll say, okay, maybe they did not really understand that what they are doing is somehow demonic. Or because they had the knowledge, they understood what good and evil is or was. Since they understood that concept and never attributed ancestral veneration, ancestral worship to anything that is remotely demonic or evil, therefore, why then do we now say that this thing is evil? Since those people that practiced and instituted it never saw it or perceived it that way. So you see that it is still playing around colonial mindset and colonial thinking. The sheer notion that these things are now considered as godless or as demonic is the ideology that has been perpetuated by the church in order to separate Africans, in order to separate us, Igbo, from our spiritual and from our cultural identity. And once that has been successfully done, then they can now gradually separate us from ourselves. Because nowadays, people are now turning back to ordinary. But the fear amongst many of us is that our families would not accept us, or they would have like some kind of a crash, a family crash. So many people that want to basically, look into this ordinary system don't want to do that because of the family rejections or the demonization that is going to follow afterwards. So we now look at it here and we now see that they have succeeded in destroying our spiritual and our cultural identity. And afterwards, they have also succeeded in destroying our interrelationship with ourselves. So every African child, let me answer her question. Every African child should be taught. Every African child should be taught to venerate his or her ancestors no matter what. They should acknowledge them through ancestral or indigenous rituals and celebrate the foundations that these ancestors laid, which gave birth to our very own existence. If the person that instituted the lineage that gave birth to my parents from both sides, somebody like me, somebody like you would never exist. So no matter what you think they did back in the day, every other culture has done worse. So So when I look at people like this lady making these kinds of assumptions, I look at it as ignorance and lack of will to basically see these things through and think before they basically respond. So in conclusion, every African child should be taught about their ancestors. They should be taught that you can go to your ancestors, you can venerate them, you can acknowledge them, sacrifice to them, share meals with them. These are the rationales behind every indigenous ritual that many people don't even understand. But they are looking at the sharpest or easiest way out, which is that our ancestors did so and so things that are really unacclaimed, and they cannot verify them, but they We believe and we accept all those informations without even thinking of going out to ask the right questions and learning about our own culture from our own cultural lens and not from another person's cultural perspective. Yeah, guys, yeah.